Good evening. I'd like to call the July 17th, 2019 board meeting to order and remind everyone to please use your microphones when you're speaking and turn them off when you're finished. Thank you. Commissioners present tonight are Commissioner Sanders, Commissioner Schmidt, Commissioner Duggan, Commissioner Doan, and myself, Commissioner Bagnall. The first order of business tonight is to ask Commissioner Doan to step forward to take his oath of office for his next elected four-year term as Commissioner.
So please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jim Doan,
I, Jim Doan,
do hereby swear
do hereby swear
to faithfully discharge the duties
to faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Commissioner
of the office of Commissioner
of the Tualatin Valley Water District
of the Tualatin Valley Water District
according to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and the laws of the state of Oregon
and the laws of the state of Oregon
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
during the term of office.
during the term of office to which I was elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Doan, and congratulations. At this time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Sanders to step forward to take his oath of office for his first full elected four-year term as Commissioner.
I, Todd Sanders, do hereby swear to faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Commissioner of the Tualatin Valley Water District according to the Constitution and the laws of the state of Oregon to the best of my ability to the term of office of which I was elected. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to Commissioner Sanders. We will turn next to reports by the Chief Executive Officer and management staff.
Good evening, President Bagnall, members of the board. We will kick things off this evening with a safety moment delivered by Andrew Carlstrom, our customer information manager, or maybe our customer service manager. Customers, yeah.
Good evening, President Bagnall, Board of Commissioners. Tonight's brief safety moment is on what you can do to help prevent fire during extreme hot weather. And even though we're having May-ish weather, hot weather is just around the corner. First thing is proper disposal of cigarettes, something that any fire service professional will tell you can drastically lower the risk of fire ignition and spread. The second is not overloading extension cords and outlets. The third is not parking on or idling on dry grass, and the dry hot conditions in hot vehicle can increase the fire risk. And on this image, we've got the catalytic converter, which can reach 1400 degrees, and then we've got the muffler. And on older cars, such as a 1974 Ford Pinto, backfires can shoot out of the exhaust pipe and trigger brush fires. Fourth is keep a fire extinguisher, bucket, and hose ready. You can stop the fire from spreading, hopefully earlier than later. And then finally, when there's a burn ban, don't burn. That's it.
Any questions?
Short and to the point.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll dive into it. Several items this evening. First of all, there were no reported detections of cryptosporidium this month from water samples collected in the Bull Run. Since cryptosporidium oocysts were not detected since late April, Portland's now able to implement a reduced monitoring plan, reduced frequency for the monitoring plan, and that is compliant with their regulatory compliance agreement that they have with EPA. Also on the topic of Portland, on Wednesday, July 10th, that's last Wednesday, the Portland Water Bureau began blending water from the Columbia South Shore well field into the distribution system. Due to the dry spring and weather based on the long-term forecast, although you wouldn't know it this week, Portland anticipates using the Columbia South Shore well field to produce about 36 million gallons a day, which is about 35% of the daily demand. and they plan to continue to run it at least for the foreseeable future. Also, on the same day, Portland increased the chloramine disinfectant residual in both the groundwater and Bull Run supplies. It went up from 2.2 to 2.5 milligrams per liter. So our customers may notice some very subtle changes either in the chlorine level or in the qualities of the water, but for the most part, this will be undetectable to most customers. Also on the topic of Portland, it's Portland month apparently. The Water Bureau is in the process, and I think they just completed it today, replacing the large meter that's on the Washington County supply line at the point of delivery where the supply line connects to the TVWD system. This meter has been replaced at least twice that I know of since the pipeline was constructed in the early 1980s. Most recently, the previous meter wasn't able to accurately record high flows, and Portland had basically told us to not use that line at flows above 23 or 24 million gallons a day. Does that sound right? Which is, like half the capacity of that pipeline. And so we had all of this capacity and couldn't use it because of the meter. Now that meter has been replaced and opened up that additional capacity to us should we need it in the future. That also allows us to be able to do things like wheel water from Portland through the TVWD system to be able to serve other folks like the city of Hillsborough. So it provides a lot more operational flexibility. I know our operations staff is really excited to have that capacity open up, and if we just had some hot weather and some high demands, we'd be set and ready to go. The other thing that will happen now over the next few days is they'll verify the operation of the meter and confirm the calibration. So that work still needs to happen, but we're in a much better position than we were even just a few days ago. Sustainability awards. Last month, TVWD received the Green Business Leaders Award from Washington County. Actually, a very cool looking award on a recycled bike chain sprocket. Very sustainable. And the award was presented to TVWD for an outstanding commitment to making Washington County a more sustainable community. So, as my predecessor used to say, we'll put this in the pile of awards.
Thank you for explaining what that thing was.
Yeah.
Not being a bike rider, I was clueless.
There you go. On Wednesday, July 3rd, the Willamette Water Supply System, or WWSS, Commission held its first ever board meeting. Again, the WWSS Commission is a partnership of TVWD, Beaverton, and Hillsborough, with TVWD serving as the managing agency. And this new commission essentially takes the place of the WWSP, our program partnership that we've had with Hillsborough over the last 4 years to implement the Willamette Water Supply Program. One of the really important actions taken by the board at their inaugural meeting was to delegate some of their authority to the management committee of the WWSS and the managing agency. This delegation of authority was necessary because it's going to take us some time, I say us, it's going to take Dave Kraska some time to stand up the organization to be able to have routine board meetings in the future. And so this authority gives us the opportunity to keep business going, keep with our schedules, keep, the lights on without having to convene these awkward meetings that may not have much, if any, agenda. Commissioner Duggan is our representative to the board. And was elected very ceremoniously as the chair of the organization. And so I think it's notable. I think it's a tremendous step forward for TVWD as the managing agency. But even more importantly, frankly, it's just one more step in the implementation of the Willamette Water Supply System and turning your dreams into reality in terms of making this the functioning organization and the functioning water supply that it will be in 2026. That's that. One of the first actions by the WWSS Management Committee that happened then the following week under that delegation of authority was to award a pipeline construction project. The project includes about 1,400 feet of 66-inch pipeline going through Wilsonville. We received bids from 4 contractors. The low bid was $2.6 million, which was more than $1 million below both the program's estimated cost for the project as well as the second low bidder. So again, even in this challenging environmental climate for bidding, we're still able to get some very competitive bids, very encouraging, and I know Dave and his team will be keeping a sharp eye on that contractor to make sure we actually get the value that we think we're going to receive. With that, I will turn it back over to Andrew Carlstrom, and he will present the department report for this evening.
Good evening again. So tonight's department report is an update on the TVWD website project. Just a reminder, Communications and Public Affairs is the internal business owner of the website and the website project. And Andrea Watson, our Communications and Public Affairs supervisor, is here tonight. She'll do the second part of this presentation. So we talked about this a little bit a few months ago, but again, we received feedback from you, from customers, and from staff about the existing website. Definitely very text-heavy, graphics poor, didn't meet current design standards, limited search functionality, not intuitive, not mobile-friendly, limited content management system or CMS functionality, and doesn't meet the requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act. This is what our current website looks like. Keep that in mind. Andrea will do a comparison in just a few on the current website versus what we're going to roll out soon. Our project objectives, I'm not going to go through all 10 of them, but it's fair to say that they all roll up to the top objective, which is improving the customer digital experience. So looking at our website project and our project constraints, again, we conducted a competitive procurement, an RFP. We had a cross-functional district team that did the selection process. The district awarded the contract to MuniCode. The same team has helped out on the implementation part of the project. Our schedule, we started in calendar year 2019, and our tentative go-live is next week, so you're going to get a preview tonight of what will roll out next week, hopefully. So on the scope for the internal or external services, it's web hosting and design services. The budget for external costs was $60,000. We came in quite a bit under that, at a little under $34,000. And in terms of progress and next steps, the team worked on content because we're not going to port over the existing content as it is, and primarily because, again, what we had on the old website doesn't meet current design standards. And Andrea will talk about research that she's looked at that gives us an indication of how people really want to navigate a website. So staff worked with MuniCode and developing the new content. The new website will have the new logo. We'll add additional content during the coming biennium. So we're going to start with a base amount of content and then add more as we need that information. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Andrea, and she's going to give you a preview of the new website.
I'm going to get it. It's going to be good. This one is ready to jump up and save me. Oh, gee, we've jumped ahead now. All right, I'll get us back to this point. But as Andrew pointed out, one of the things we wanted to go over with you is just kind of the concept behind what the web committee settled on as our approach. So in working with MuniCode, we really looked at research, and we looked at people aren't spending very much time on websites, and they're definitely not spending a lot of time on our current website. We're not exactly sure why that is. We don't know if it's, I just came here to make a payment and I can go over to Paymentus and that's why I left, or if they're looking for stuff and they're not able to locate it, so they just give up and call us or get the information another way. But just to highlight how the structural changes are different, Our website's very text-heavy right now. There's a lot of links. If you started clicking through these, a lot of them go to the same kind of page. So almost all of these about payments go to our Paymentus online billing portal. With the new website, it's a lot more picture-based on the front, but it's also very few buttons. And the reason behind this is most people are also not looking at our webpage on a computer anymore. They're looking on a device. They're doing it on the phone or something like that. And so when this collapses to become accessible and become responsive, if we have as much information as we do, it's very difficult to navigate. You really don't want people to have to scroll down and down and down to find what they're looking for. So these buttons just kind of turn into bars on your phone. And we looked at our current website use, and we know what people are going to the website for the most part. And we tried to make those buttons that are really going to focus in like on our core messaging that we're doing. So here's how you're going to access our online bill pay. If you're looking to come to work with us, here's where our jobs information is. Here's some conservation messaging and tips. We know from our research with customers, and I know Marlis is going to share some of this about the research they've done at the Willamette, but the consortium, we participate with them, and this just consistently comes up as a high value, as well as what we want to be helping people get prepared for natural disaster or water emergencies. There's kind of two ways that people can use this search function, and they're much more robust than what we have with our current website. The top one up here in the corner where you can just search something as generic as project, and it's going to give you a list of all of our construction project updates in one list. And so what this tries to do is make it so that every door is kind of the right place, and because our customers have different ways that they think about information or they seek information, so we want to provide multiple ways for people to access. So we have this other kind of tool where I want to, and it's like, no, I came here to do something, and we try to help narrow that down without using a menu structure for them to quickly find the top things that people are looking for when they go to the website. The other thing I want to show you is sort of another contrasting kind of element, and that's around our employment. This has been a place where we've really struggled. It's difficult for people to find our postings as well as to navigate the way the pages are set up on our current content management system. Right now we only have one open posting, but when we have multiples, we either have to organize these blocks across the top, or we have to make anchor links that take you down further in the page because they can't see that in the first couple scrolls. So it's been, we get a lot of feedback from applicants, and we are worried that people don't persist and actually complete an application process because the way the information is organized here. HR is working really rapidly to move towards a NeoGov system, which is a pretty common tool that public agencies are using. So we'll be integrating with that as soon as that comes online, but we definitely know we need an interim solution until we get there. And so this is what the new website, how it organizes job postings. And if we had more than one, that white bar would get larger and they would just be listed down that page. And as you get further into, so from our existing page, if you were to click on this link to the job opening, this is what you get. You get a PDF, you can download it, you can print it, you can save it. But the essential information that the candidate needs to apply is embedded in all these pages. The supplemental questions are here, what materials they need to submit, the job description, the pay, all those things that we would want somebody to be able to scan really quickly to determine, am I going to be able to meet this application deadline? Do I meet the qualifications? Do I have answers to the supplemental questions? With our new website, and I know this is really hard to read in this format, but we can make it a little bit bigger, and on a phone or a computer, this adjusts the size. It's only because we're projecting it. But this material is organized in a different way. What they need to apply is common, so all the job postings will link to this page with the application, and then the information about the posting itself is much more robust. We can use bullet points. These are the items that you need to submit. Here's the supplemental questions you're going to be required to answer, so they can scan at a glance and determine if they want to move forward in the process. So that's our second thing we want to demo for you. And then the last one, just to kind of show how the approaches are different, is our construction updates. So how it works now is every project kind of gets a link here on this homepage, and we're in the midst of a lot of capital projects, and we know more are coming, as well as our routine kind of maintenance things. So this is the list that we have now. And each one of these projects takes the customer to updates and additional information, and that information looks like this. So again, you have to leave here and go to all of these different links to really get a sense of what's happening if you're interested. The new website has an approach that looks a lot like the jobs, only it does have a map where these projects are all going to have their own pinpoint on the map where they're actually located. And then as you click into the project, it looks much more like our SIP, our printed SIP that you see in the budget book, with different sections that highlight different things. And as you click on those things, you can see photos, you can see the maps, and you can zoom in and look at what we're doing. So this is going to provide a lot more opportunity for us to visually explain what's going on, as well as put the text updates, and to create the portal for people to sign up to receive updates if they live in the neighborhood and they want to know about the impacts. So I know that's a really quick overview, but we just want to really show it's a different approach, because we know when we launch this, a big part of our plan is going to be to support our customer service department, because they're the ones who are going to field the calls of people who go to it with an element of surprise, like, hey, it's not where it used to be. The button that I know how to click isn't where it used to be. As well as early next week, we'll be having the website up in the lobby, and as customers come and visit, we're going to invite them to stop and take a look and give us feedback. And then we'll be testing it with our customer service agents. And the testing is what determines whether we make our go live date. If we're not comfortable, if we see things that we think, no, this needs a little more work, then we will work with IT to flex that go live date, because we want to make sure that the project is functional as well as we meet our timelines. And then we also will be using Nextdoor to let our neighbors know, hey, we have a new website. There's a totally different approach. If you come and visit this and you don't find what you're looking for, this is how you tell us what we need to add, because we want to add what our customers want. So we create that customer experience, as opposed to, we did something great, let's put it all out there on the web and then expect them to be able to find it. Okay.
Any wrap-up questions? If not, that concludes.
Excuse me. When is this due to hit the street?
Our initial target date is next Wednesday, but it will depend on testing.
What'd you say?
24th.
Oh, really? Okay, thank you.
We'll see.
How are we not in compliance with ADA?
The ADA Act was modified, and you now have to tag like all of your photos, your maps, your support documents. They have to be able to be read by a reader. And our current contact management system did not have robust features for us to be able to do that. So we're not out of compliance because we didn't publish it after the law, but our new website has to be compliant with the new standards.
I would like to see, I don't know how to say this, different color combinations. Many of these, the type is small. It's, I believe, I'm going to guess here, black on dark blue, and it just is invisible. I mean, I can see there's letters there, I just can't see what they are. I also question the type font. If this is going to be displayed on anything smaller than a 42-inch TV set, some of these fonts are much too small to read, and I don't know how it's going to come across on a phone. But, I mean, it just, you know, I'm not asking this to be changed before you go live, but we need to look at these things to see that they're actually going to work. I sat through a presentation last Friday that must have appeared really cool on people's computer screens. But when they were projected, they were just impossible to read. You couldn't see anything. And I just want us to avoid those kinds of mistakes. But I'm really sincere about this color thing. I mean, I've been beating people up on this for 20 years. And it just doesn't, we do things pretty good for a while and then it drops back to, any of the 256,000 possible combinations that Microsoft has. And it just doesn't work. And we're 6% of the population. So are we just going to say to this 6%, "Oh, you're not important to us"? I don't know. I just want some consideration given to both the colors and to the font. Okay?
We appreciate your questions, and we will address them, Commissioner Down.
Certainly.
Okay. Any other questions? And we will definitely be following up on that. Because of the scaling and how it presents, the font size may be a little misrepresented here this evening, but we'll make sure that that's addressed so that it does improve the readability for sure. Any other questions? If not, that concludes the management staff report this evening. Thank you.
And as most of you in this room know, this also concludes the last CEO report that Mark will be delivering to this board. And in light of that, this seems like a good time to ask Mark to come forward for a special presentation. Okay. Mark has been with the TVWD team since August of 2007, when he accepted the position of chief engineer. He made an immediate, positive, and even transformative difference to the engineering department. He also helped the management team achieve the level of professionalism and strategic thinking that we were striving towards. Mark was promoted to the CEO position in June of 2013 and has continued to deliver exemplary service to the district and our partners, even now, after his retirement. We want to recognize Mark's distinguished tenure with TVWD with this award, which I will hold up in a moment, engraved with the words, "In grateful recognition of Mark Knudsen's 12 years of dedicated service and leadership to the Tualatin Valley Water District."
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It has truly been an honor for me to be able to serve TVWD, the customers. I work with some remarkable people every day. I'm really fortunate to have had a remarkable career, and I can't think of a better place to wrap it up than TVWD. So thank you very much.
So what is it, Mark? A slide rule?
Do you want to see that font size?
I don't know what it is. Oh, great.
Yeah. No,
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
We will turn now to Commissioner communications and reports of meetings attended, and I will start with Commissioner Sanders tonight.
Well, after a nice vacation or two, I have returned. That being said, I still haven't registered my June 4th monthly executive session meeting. But then once I returned home, I met on July 11th with the CEO and the CFO so that they could kind of catch me up on things, including the upcoming rate structure or rate meetings that'll be going on. Yesterday, I joined the CEO in accepting an invitation to the grand opening of the Washington County Public Safety Center, which was really interesting. And then today's July 17th board meeting.
Thank you. Moving to Commissioner Schmidt.
I have two to report. The work session, the first Tuesday of the month, and the Joint Water Commission, and tonight.
Thank you. Moving to Commissioner Doan.
Yes. We had the work session. I met with you and Mark on the 28th to discuss what approval means. I attended the Aloha Business Association meeting, the Joint Water Commission, Barney Joint Operating Commission meeting, and tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Duggan.
On June 26th, I attended the Vision Action Network of Washington County's appreciation luncheon for elected officials. I got to meet a few people that I haven't had a chance to interact with in the past. I sat across from Olivia Auclair on the Hillsborough City Council, and we got to talk about all things Washington County at that meeting. On July 2nd, I attended the Finance Committee meeting that was held and our board work session. On the 3rd, I was privileged to attend the inaugural meeting of the Willamette Water Supply Board, System Board, that our CEO, Mark, so well documented in his remarks earlier. It was really a great kickoff, even though it did have a little bit of awkwardness at the beginning. I think we got it off to a pretty good start, and I'm really glad we have a very good staff to keep us all afloat, so to speak. Also, last week, I attended the Oregon State Board of Engineers and Land Surveyors 100th birthday. And it was a very nice evening. I got a commemorative book, celebrates 100 years of the board keeping engineers and land surveyors registered and practicing the best professional services that they can in the state. Also got this nice, nifty medallion attending that. And at the meeting, there was a timeline of engineering accomplishments in the state of Oregon over the last 100 years. And it struck me that 100 years from now, the very first thing in this 100 years that we're going into, our Willamette Water Supply Project is going to be #1 on that list of accomplishments in the coming 100 years. And then tonight's meeting.
Thank you. And I'll bring up the rear. On the 28th of June, as Commissioner Doan reported, he and I met with our CEO to discuss financial report changes and contracting procedures. On the 2nd of July, I met with Commissioner Duggan and the Finance Committee, and we went over some of those same financial reports and a few other smaller items. And we also had the board work session that night where we talked about board assignments and staffing updates. On the 9th of July, I had the meeting with the CEO and Commissioner Smith to do the agenda planning. We had the Joint Water Commission meeting on Friday the 12th, which was regular JWC business, and then tonight's board meeting of district business. So moving now to Commissioner topics. Does anybody have a topic they need to raise? Seeing none, we'll move on to public comment. And I see that we have 2 distinguished water professionals here in our audience. So I know we've got somebody that wants to say something. This public comment period is set aside for persons wishing to address the board on items on the consent agenda and matters not on the agenda. Additional public comment will be invited on agenda items as they're presented. So I do have one blue paper. Mr. Jesse Lohman has signed up to speak on an item not on the agenda. And just as a reminder, each person is limited to 5 minutes unless an extension is granted by the board. And if 3 or more people testify on the same topic, each person will get 3 minutes. So Jesse, please step up, say hi.
I guess I'm on. Good evening, Madam Chairman and Board of Commissioners. I've just one little thing I wanted to chat about, and I'm glad to hear that this water supply thing, it said that you're going to be the managing director or whatever of the Willamette Supply. I have one question that I'll lead to get to the water treatment plant. My question on that will come just a little bit. I just want to give a historical perspective of why this district was formed. Gene Seibel, the manager of Wolf Creek Highway Water District, and myself back as Metzger Water District Manager, decided that we wanted to be independent of the city of Portland. We really wanted total and absolute independence, control over our destiny and control over our system. So we went to our boards and proceeded to suggest that we ought to merge, and our boards at that time did that. So we ultimately did. The district was formed. And the reason we did that again was to have absolute control over our system. Wolf Creek had a 120 million gallon a day water right on the Willamette, dated back to 1973. Went through all the treatment processes, the studies and everything through 92, 91, or 96. But now I've just had one question that has come up. Like I said, we wanted absolute independence, control over our destiny and our system. And I just wonder, I've heard that we do not have control over the water treatment plant, that someone else is managing and operating that. Is that true? I mean, it just, to me.
So I'll take a first shot at it, and we'll see where it goes. So again, the entire Willamette water supply system is now a partnership. It's not exclusive to just TVWD. So it's like the Joint Water Commission, jointly funded by partners that include TVWD, the city of Hillsborough, and TVWD is essentially 55, almost 60%. Hillsborough is about 35%, and the city of Beaverton is about 5%. In developing and negotiating those agreements, we looked for opportunities to be able to share our knowledge and expertise, as well as, frankly, sharing the costs associated with being able to implement and, in terms of construction, and continue to operate that system. One of the significant challenges we had is that TVWD as an organization doesn't have treatment operator expertise currently, and we were rapidly moving into the design phase of the treatment plant. So we ultimately agreed to have the city of Hillsborough provide operating staff to the plant, but that staff is essentially reporting to TVWD. So TVWD will be not only the managing agency, but will have staff as the manager for the operations of the system. And so Hillsborough's staff will function largely as a contract operator to run the plant, to turn the pumps on and off, and to adjust the valves. TVWD's staff will be providing oversight of that operation, as well as providing oversight of the transmission system operation and oversight and management and staffing for the water resources, water quality, monitoring, reporting. So it is truly trying to take the best of each of the organizations and focus them and put them under the oversight and management of TVWD. So that would be my summary explanation.
I guess the nuts of where I'm at is, you've split the responsibility for running the treatment plant. That's what I'm hearing, basically. Management versus operational.
I would characterize it as no different than, for example, having a contractor operate the treatment plant.
Can you fire them?
Actually, in the agreement, there are ways to fire them based on non-performance.
Okay, well, I like I say that it's just me as 27 and a half years of devoted to this system in various forms and rather, is that it was somewhat disappointing to hear that this board, this district did not take absolute control and operational and ownership of a system that you own majority portions of, and just own it and operate it and be independent from everybody. I mean, Hillsborough has their plant, they're basically independent. I mean, they have the Joint Commission. You have some input into it, but they run it. And I was hoping, and I think that as we went through this whole process, that our goal would have been to have just total, and I just don't hear that, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just an ancient has-been, but I just wanted to express my sadness and that the rest is not absolute and total independence from this district, outright ownership and operation and management of that system. And that's what I had to say, Madam Chairman, and I just thank you for the
Probably never
opportunity.
expected to see me up here, but it's
Well,
nice
no,
to
I
see you
heard the
again,
rumor that
Jesse.
you were there, Chairman Bagnell, and I'm glad that you're continuing your community service. You did a good job running around, the thing in Washington County and the city of Portland and areas, and so good for you, and continue on with your service. So,
Thank you very much.
okay, thank you for your allowing me to participate, and good luck in the future. I think you're going to need it.
Do we have any other members of the public that wish to testify? All right, hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Any board member may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Any items requested to be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion will be considered immediately after the board has approved the ones that don't require discussion. We have 4 items on consent tonight. The first one is to approve the June 19th, 2019 regular meeting minutes. The second is to approve the July 2nd, 2019 work session minutes. The third is to approve appointments of the board officers and internal and external committee assignments for the 2019-20 fiscal year as found in the proposed board appointments and assignments document, which everyone should have found at your desk. And lastly, we would like to adopt Resolution 22-19, a resolution authorizing transfer of real property interests by Tualatin Valley Water District to the Willamette Water Supply System Commission. And just as I held this up a moment ago, I wanted to point out that the board assignments and appointments document has been updated to reflect the addition of the audit committee. And the updated version will be attached to the minutes. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I so move.
Second?
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Moving to the business agenda. First item on the business agenda is consider adopting Resolution 23-19, a resolution designating registered agent, transferring duties and granting signature authority to Tom Hickman as the new Chief Executive Officer. Staff report, Chief Legal Counsel Clark Balfour.
Thank you, Commissioners and Chair. So fairly self-explanatory. Earlier this evening, you gave Mark a nice gift and recognized this as his last meeting. And years ago, when Greg DiLoretto left and Mark assumed command, we adopted a resolution very similar to this to fully memorialize that transition of duties and to have a document that would be available for health care plan administrators, retirement plan administrators, other parties that we have contracts with to show the vesting of authority in the CEO. And tonight we're doing the same thing as Mark transitions out and we go to Tom Hickman. So we have our meetings in the third Wednesday of each month. We're not going to meet again until August 21st, I think it is. So in the meantime, Tom will assume the duties of CEO on August 1st, and we thought it would be appropriate to have this resolution in place on August 1st. He can fully assume command. So unless there are questions, I'd ask you to adopt this resolution.
Questions? Well, if there are no questions, do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 23-19, a resolution designating registered agent, transferring duties, and granting signature authority to Tom Hickman as Chief Executive Officer?
A move?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Item B on the business agenda, consider the following actions related to the second restated intergovernmental cooperative agreement creating the Willamette River Water Coalition. The first item is approving a motion to read by title only ordinance 03-19, and the second item is direct that the ordinance be brought back for a second reading and adoption at the August 21st, 2019 board meeting, and another presentation by Clark.
Thank you. So we're back again, this time with another agreement, but this is essentially the exact same process we went through for the adoption of the WIF Commission Agreement back in April of 2018, and more recently, the WWSS Commission Agreement, which is now effective and that you heard a report on earlier. So once again, as we've gone through the evolution of the Willamette in terms of our intergovernmental agreements and our partnership commitments. In the course of that, it became apparent that the Willamette River Water Coalition needed some amendments, and that's what you have in your packet tonight. The staff report, I think, details the changes that we're talking about, but really the Willamette River Water Coalition will be a 190 entity. It will continue in the same form that it's been, but its purpose is shifting a little bit, primarily to manage the water rights and be the steward of that WRWC water right, which we are using in the WIF and with the Willamette Water Supply Commission. So as you said, this is the first reading of a two-reading process. So we would ask that you, after questions, we would ask that you open this for public comment, and if not, then if you could adopt a motion to read this by title only, and then we can bring it back next month for final adoption. Tigard's already approved this. Tualatin is soon to approve, I think on the 22nd, and Sherwood is in the same boat. So when this comes back to you for final approval in August, everyone else would have approved at that point.
Do I have a motion and a second to read by title only the draft ordinance? All those in favor signify by saying, there's no motion yet.
I'll so move.
A second?
It's so easy to get tripped up. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. I'd like to invite staff to read the ordinance title into the record.
Ordinance number 03-19, an ordinance approving the second restated intergovernmental cooperative agreement creating the Willamette River Water Coalition, an intergovernmental entity formed under ORS Chapter 190 between Tualatin Valley Water District and the cities of Sherwood, Tigard, and Tualatin.
Thank you. Anything further from the board on that? If not, do I have a motion to direct staff to bring back the ordinance for a second reading and adoption at the August 21st, 2019 board meeting?
So moved.
And I'll second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Item C, consider approving a water rate process and schedule, including holding a public hearing on August 17th, 2019, to consider adjusting water rates and designating public comments received on or after August 14th, 2019, but before 4:00 p.m. on August 28th, 2019, as part of the public record. We'll have a staff report from CFO Paul Matthews.
Good evening, President Bagnall, Commissioners. Tonight's presentation is really the kickoff of our rate-setting process that we'll go through and ultimately result in rates that will be adjusted effective November 1st of 2019 and 2020. Presented here is our quick agenda. First, I want to give you a quick update on what's happened with the financial forecast. You might recall that you approved the financial plan that included the financial forecast in May. But we've made some final adjustments here in the last month and want to present those to you. We'll present the proposed rate increase and we'll talk about the process for outreach to customers. The capital improvement plan, we did not change. What you see here is the capital improvement plan that was adopted in the district's current biennial budget. Nothing has changed there, but what has changed is the debt financing. As you know, we're in the process of closing a loan with the Water Infrastructure Finance Innovation Act funding through the EPA, the WIFIA funding, the WIFIA loan we've talked about. And in the financial plan, we'd assumed interest rates on the WIFIA loan at 3.5%. Right now, the market rate is much lower than that, and so we want to recognize that the current plan that we have in here, the rates are based on a WIFIA interest rate of 2.85%. So that's substantially less than the 3.5%, and that will affect our rates somewhat. And it affects how our other financing will roll out. So as you see here, we have the entire $387 million of WIFIA funding and about $94 million of revenue bonds that we would need to roll out the entire plan. So we put that into our financial plan and we look at what the rate increases are. And what we've presented here are what typical bills will be out in the future. And these are presented without inflation. So these are in real dollar terms, no inflation added to it. And you can see there's just a slight increase above the rate of inflation. But we do recognize that there is in fact inflation. So if we look at what the rate projections are, including the inflationary impact, you can see that they go up slightly. And I've got a table here that'll actually show you the dollar values in just a moment. The rate increases that we're looking at are just a little bit above 3.5 at 3.6%. Based on our current assumptions of interest rates, capital costs, the timing of the program, 3.6% are the rate adjustments that we're looking at. Given the rate adjustments and everything taken together, we're looking at typical bills that end up by 2029 in the mid-70s. We compared this to some of the other jurisdictions. Now, I'm not a fan of this because it tends to imply that somehow keeping your rates as low as possible provides the service that customers need. But we do want to present this in full disclosure. This happens to be sorted by the rate increases that local agencies around the area are looking at, anywhere from 12% for one particular agency that's completely beholden, I guess, to the city of Portland, and some actually are having no increases as they're going forward. Our proposed rate increase in there at 3.6 is in the lower part of the range. So there have been some significant changes from what we presented to the public back in 2017. So you'll remember back in 2017, we presented what the rates would look like well into the future. And the key changes are, first of all, the WIFIA financing, and it's the flexibility of the WIFIA financing as well as the lower interest rates both that have contributed significant savings for our customers. We've also looked at other components of our borrowing, and we've been able to save money both on the issuance cost and as well as in the revenue bonds. Interest rates have generally been lower, and so we've reduced the assumption on interest rates for those revenue bonds. We've also structured the debt a little bit differently so that during the construction of the Willamette Water Supply Program, we'll be capitalizing interest and making interest-only payments for the revenue bonds and capitalized interest on the WIFIA debt. So that's also incorporated in there. The total debt service as a result of these things, if we look at the debt service that we're currently planning through fiscal year 2027, comes out to be $22.7 million. 2 years ago when we did this forecast, the total through 2027 was $145 million. So we've able to avoid about $122 million of debt service. That's not borrowing, that's actually the payment on the debt. And that results in savings to our customers, as well as a little bit more cash flow that we can use to pay for some of these capital improvements. Other changes that we've had, our rate revenues have been higher than expected. In our forecast, we'd anticipated a greater reduction in sales as a result of conservation effect from the rates themselves. We haven't had cooperative weather recently, but our revenues have been stronger. We added Beaverton as a partner to the Willamette Water Supply System, and that has reduced our total cost as well and resulted in some savings. On the downside, and these are green arrows up are good, red arrows down are moving us in the opposite direction of rates. We did have the city of Beaverton withdrew some customers, which reduced our economies of scale and did cause our rates to be somewhat higher than they otherwise would have been. I want to talk a little bit about WIFIA interest rates because, the financial plan that we presented to you had interest rates at 3.5%. It wasn't that long ago, back in December, early December of 2018, the WIFI interest rate for us was at 3.33%. So that's what it was at that time. If you look now where we are, we're actually quite low. We're below 2.6%, the rate that we're looking at. This presents for the past month. There has been kind of that steady at about 2.5%. It went up a little bit, which got some of us nervous as we're watching interest rates go up. But then you can see about the 13th, it started to trend back down. So we feel that having the interest rate in the financial forecast at 2.85 is prudent. We don't think it's too high. We don't want to have something that is too low and we have to come back with customers. But there's another important aspect of this, which is the way the financial plan is structured and the way that the bonds are issued. An increase in the interest rates in this range actually will not change the near-term rate increases that we need from customers. So we don't have a great risk that suddenly we'll come back to you in a month and say, boy, we need to have a much higher rate increase because interest rates have gone up from the WIFIA program. Having said that, we are planning on closing the WIFIA loan by the end of this month. At that point, we'll lock in what the interest rate is and it'll be fixed for the entire period of time. So we're looking forward to that.
Isn't that a delay? I thought we were scheduled to close on the 20th.
We were looking at the 20th, but it is, we're working with the EPA and the documents are being reviewed. We have a meeting next week. Clark and I will go down and visit with them and have the final issues buttoned up. And there will be some other work that we have to do to get done by hopefully the 30th is the current time that we're scheduled. But stay tuned, we don't have complete control over that. So where does that leave us? We want to compare again the rates that we presented to you in 2017 and the financial forecast that was behind those rates and the rates that we're talking about tonight. What are the big changes that we see here? First of all, you can see in the debt service the assumptions that we've had, and this is basically because of the flexibility that we're able to have with the WIFIA loan. We were planning to have debt service that was going to consume a fair amount of our revenue early on in the process. That is now being pushed out in the current forecast, and we really don't see a large issue until we get out to 2029. Key thing WIFIA allows us to do is to capitalize our interest, which means we don't make any interest payments during the construction period. And once the project is done, then we start paying off the interest during construction as well as the principal itself. So that's very helpful in letting us get the rates in place and use that capital that comes in from our customers to actually pay down how much we're going to borrow. So the rate increases that we presented were at 8.8%. That was the forecast that we had in 2017, 8.8% through 2025. We've now been able to reduce that from 8.8% to 3.6%. And when you compound that over time, that's a very significant savings for our customers. So we're really thrilled to have this kind of a borrowing opportunity and the flexibility of the WIFIA loan to lower these costs for our customers. Here we've presented the two rate differences, the difference between what you see, $94.62 by the time you get out to 2029. By that time, we're really into the WIFIA program where we've got everything fully implemented versus $74 is what we'd be, $75 what we'd be looking now under the current forecast. You've seen these risks. Not a lot of them have changed, so I'm not going to go through them in detail. But we do obviously look at the risk of the forecast. Right now we're focused on interest rates because that's an important one, but those risks continue as well as some of the opportunities that we have to keep the cost in control. And of course we're working on those as well. So what are the impacts on our customers and the rates? Presented here is the proposed rates by block. The block 1 rate currently at 523, we're proposing having that go to 542 in the first year and then 562 in the second year. The block 2 rate from 746 to 773 and then 801. It's important to reflect on the proposal here is actually for a 2-year increase based on the recommendations of the Rate Advisory Committee that we adopt 2 years of rates to give people a better sense of what their future rate increases will be. And so we're going to propose that same process that was recommended by the Rate Advisory Commission on the committee. On the fixed charges presented here, and again, these are the proposed fixed charges for November 1st, 2019 and November 1st, 2020 by meter size. And those are presented on a monthly basis. So the typical bills, the impact on our customers from a typical bill perspective. Currently, for a 7 CCF customer, which is our typical customer, the typical bill is about $52.44. That would be going up to $54.34 and then $56.33 by 2020. Presented here, you can see it's about a $1.90 increase in the typical bill in the first year and $1.99 the second year, so about $2 a month increase. But we look at also an above average customer to see the impact on them. And you can present here, it's about a little bit less than $3 a month increase for those above average customers. And we look at the very large customer. This is a customer that takes 28 CCF in a month. This is quite a bit of water for a customer to use, 4 times that of a typical customer. The increase there is about a little bit over $7 a month in the first year and $7.31 in the second year, combined bill. So those are the rates that would be coming out of our updated financial forecast based on, again, assuming a WIFIA interest rate of 2.85%. The process that we want to follow is familiar to you all. We have this regular meeting tonight where we discuss the proposal, and we're looking for direction from the board to see if we present these proposed rates or if you have other direction for us. And we're going to ask you to establish a public comment period so we can schedule open houses and receive comments from customers. We have open houses that tentatively we have scheduled for August the 14th, which is a weeknight, and on a weekend, August the 24th. We'll present this rate proposal, or if you desire more than one rate proposal, and we'll receive public comment. You'll have a regular meeting on the 21st. We would ask that you have a public hearing at that regular meeting and that we would notify our customers as required by law via postcard that you'll be considering rates at that public meeting and receive further public comment at that meeting. On the 28th, close public comment at 4 p.m. That would allow us to gather all the comments that we've received at the open houses or through electronic means or through letters and provide those to you. If necessary or desirable, we could actually present that at a work session on the first part of September, or hold that until the regular meeting at the 28th when we would ask that you take action on the rates. So with that, are there any questions I can answer?
Thank you, Paul. I love seeing the difference between the 2017 forecast and today, and I think the staff is to be so commended for all of your wonderful work securing that WIFIA loan, and I'm going to sleep better once it's signed.
We all will.
So, do I have a motion and a second to approve a water rate process and schedule, including holding a public hearing on August 17th, 2019, to consider adjusting water rates and designating public comments received on or after August 14th, 2019, but before 4:00 p.m. on August 28th, 2019, as part of the public record?
So moved.
A second?
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. We have a rate process. Lastly on the agenda tonight, we have an informational presentation on the Willamette Water Supply Program Communications Public Opinion Polling, and the staff report is from Marlis Mock. Thank you, Marlis.
Light needs to come on. Got it. I'm suffering from a cold, so just bear with me. Hopefully get through this flying colors. Okay. So just want to talk with you for a few minutes tonight about research that both TVWD and the City of Hillsborough conduct every 2 years that informs our communications process. So as you all know, we do a lot of outreach and utilize a lot of tools when we communicate with the public. We develop talking points that we basically use in every venue. Lots of written newsletters and emails and tweets, website content, events, lots of one-on-one meetings with property owners and stakeholders along the route, and lots of other higher level briefings like at city councils and for mayors. Just a quick snapshot of sort of the volume of outreach that we conduct and the amount of contact that we're making with people. It's pretty significant. We communicate on a lot of different levels with a lot of different people and engage people where it's comfortable for them. So we've learned that word selection is really important, and it really does result in success. And so that's the point of this presentation tonight, is sort of to explain that. So the results of that are positive news coverage that we've received, really important and really successful neighbor and property owner visits. We appeal to diverse audiences. The partnership events that we do with the City of Hillsborough or the City of Beaverton at their events go really well and go really smoothly with the coordination we do with them. And then also at higher level special events like the West Side Economic Alliance. And then lots and lots of communication with direct impacted property owners along the pipeline route. So we know that over time, the public's perception of words and news changes. And we are really heightened to that, considering the sort of social media life that we live now. So just last year, Chapman University published this report that drinking water was, of this long list of things that people are concerned about, was number 5, just below the Russia investigation, the economy, murder confessions, and life expectancy. Higher of importance than even like someone I love becoming ill, or extinction of a plant or animal species. So that's really telling, and we pay close attention to that. That's really important information for us to know. And then also up from 41% in 2012, 64% say that pollution of rivers, lakes, and streams is an extremely or very serious problem. So 4 years into the program last year, we wanted to go back and take a look at the words that we're using, do some polling through stakeholder telephone and focus groups, update our messaging where it was appropriate to do that, and make sure that we're not confusing people. So we had stakeholder interviews, which are one-on-one, really important, and contain staff, all the way from staff to higher level members of government jurisdictions. Also really helps build trust with those agencies and with those staff, because we're asking their opinion and really want to hear from them. There was a set of telephone surveys that were conducted. This was from the City of Hillsborough. So really helps hear from sort of Joe Public what their concerns are, and kind of gives us an ability to measure the tools that we're using. And then focus groups, which is the most in-depth of all of the research. We spend 2 hours with these groups of people. We provide them a stipend and lunch, and it has a professional facilitator. They're videotaped. They're really interesting to watch. They have really in-depth conversations. They learn a lot. So it's interesting to see them go from really not really knowing much about Willamette Water Supply or the agencies to, at the end, really having a good understanding of what they've learned. So the stakeholder interviews, like I mentioned, civic leaders, staff, neighborhood organizations, depending on what situation we were doing, 20 to 25 of those conducted. again, just overall, communications are going well. Construction impacts were seen as a big challenge. And also that ratepayers knew less about the program, which we understand because a big focus on Willamette water supply has been on the neighbors and the traveling public near the pipeline and the facilities. I work really closely with Andrea and Lindsay at Hillsborough to make sure that ratepayers are taken along, and that whole process is improving. Focus groups were customers of Hillsborough and TVWD. A little snapshot of the highlights. People are satisfied with the water service they're getting. Meeting future needs has been a really important theme that we've heard recently of the community. Seismic resiliency, yeah, they kind of know about it and they think that's important, but it's not top of mind. It's really meeting the needs of the growth of our communities and preparation. So just looking at the word choice that we asked people to respond to, Bull Run is up there for TVWD customers, Mid-Willamette River lower on the scale. So we know that we have work to do to make sure that people understand the quality of those sources. Same thing with Hillsborough, a little less good rating. Most helpful messages, when we talk about state-of-the-art water filtration, people really, that appeals to them. They trust treatment. They have heard good things about that. And so talking about water treatment and educating people about what that means is really going to be important. And then the preferred sort of resiliency terms, again, planning ahead. We keep hearing that from the community, that planning ahead for our communities is really important, being prepared, having security. Those are all terms that really resonated with people. So the phone survey was to inform Hillsborough's strategic communications plan. Hundreds of customers were included, approximately 12 minutes each. Of that survey, interesting to read that 80% still report that they feel like their water bill is affordable. Only 5 of the 302 complained of cost. So that's just sort of overall interesting. People are satisfied with the information they're receiving. Again, safe water supply, protecting public health. Again, planning for the future is a theme, planning, long-term planning for the communities and communities' growth. And then we just wanted to have a quick quiz, a good word, bad word quiz. So just wanted your perspective. So in the word environment, what do you think? Good word, bad word? Anyone?
Good.
We got this in advance.
Oh, that's what you were
so
saying.
I know that it's a bad word.
Oh, shit. Oh, that's what you meant when you said that. Okay, I get it now. Okay, well, that's sort of anticlimactic.
Why?
Really wrecks the quiz, but still.
So after
this is
getting
pretty
this ahead of
interesting.
time, I got a chance to kind of look at
Yeah.
it, and it blew my mind. Like, why is the word environment bad?
So I think, okay, so we don't necessarily know from polling. I mean, we could dive into that some more, but I think when I look at these words and when I think about it, and the people I know and maybe my family members who aren't in water, they're too broad and generic. Environment. But when you talk about land, air, water, like that's more something you can relate to. Does that?
None of it made sense. Like most of these answers of good and bad, I was almost, as someone who works in academics, I was like,
Yeah.
really?
Yes.
I failed.
And that's
That's
why
how I felt. I felt like I failed.
Well, I'm not glad you failed, but I'm glad that it made you really think, because
But it proves her point.
it proves my point that we use words all the time and make assumptions about them. And you use these terms over and over and over, and yeah. And so, yes, that exactly proves my point. The one that surprised me was redundancy. And I used redundancy all the time, and I was surprised to hear that. So looking back at the focus groups, the video, A woman in our focus group said, "You mean we're spending over $1 billion to build a system that we don't need?" So she, in her mind, the word redundant means it's not needed. It never even occurred to me that you would think that. So that's exactly why we do this. So we'll be starting the process to do additional polling next year. So again, we don't want to become complacent. We're doing a really good job. We continue to work with Lindsay and Andrea at the agencies to make sure that we're reaching more and more stakeholders, ratepayers. We are aware that worries about water quality in the Willamette River continue to grow, even though water quality overall is improving. And rates, not as much of a concern. And especially after Paul's presentation, huge relief that that's less and less of a concern. So it just helps us fine-tune our messaging. Again, nothing can really replace all of the everyday interactions that we have with the public, and that starting conversations about projects, even when we don't know very much about them, has really worked, engaging the public. So, any questions?
I just thought I'd indicate that redundant in Britain means somebody that's going to get laid off. So
Yes,
that's why the confusion is. So if you have somebody who is educated in the British Isles, that's exactly what it means.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard that.
During my years with the Water Pollution Control Lab with the City of Portland, we sampled the Willamette River routinely. And the water quality fluctuates, but there was a couple times of year when we would get up to Lake Oswego, and that would be the farthest upriver we want. Besides turbidity and E. coli, it met drinking water standards. That was really interesting.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlis. That was the highlight of my day, reviewing the board report and getting to the good word, bad word quiz. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to know all the answers before we go.
Didn't quite think that one through. Okay.
All right, there being no further business before the Board of Commissioners, this meeting is adjourned.